Welcome to Nature Phenomena. My name is Teresa.
My name is Ian.
And we are going to talk about seeds.
Yeah. And so, seeds in general, I think as a, kind of a small plant, like if you see plants in the store, they're not dead, but they look very brown. And, they don't look alive, but they are. I think that's kind of what's happening in the seed. And then they get water, and the seed pops open and starts to grow. And as soon as it pops up, there's also nutrients in the seed. But as soon as it pops up, it has probably used, after it's popped up and it starts making roots, it has probably already used all of the nutrients in the seed. And now it has to rely on its roots.
Yes. And so first we'll talk about how a seed goes from a tiny little hard object to a tiny little seedling or a plant.
So I imagine that as soon as they get water, the shell starts to soften, and the plant inside of the seed grows, popping open the seed, and then it starts to grow out what looks like a little limb, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's very thin.
Yes.
At that phase, it's like a dried piece of spaghetti.
Sort of. It
but
shouldn't
not
feel
dried, but that's just how thin it is. It's very thin, and it grows and grows until it breaks surface, and then it expands into leaves.
Yeah.
Leaves.
So some seeds will germinate when the conditions are right. So when the soil reaches a certain temperature and is also moist, generally, that will break down the husk.
Yeah.
There are some seeds, like cherry seeds, that have to go through a period of being cold, and then the seeds will germinate when the soil gets to a warmer temperature. But they have to get cold first.
Like pretty cold.
Yeah.
Like a chilly winter afternoon.
Oh, like much colder than that. Like the frozen soil kind of cold.
Oh.
So, farmers will put seeds in, like, the refrigerator for a period of time. It's a special type of refrigerator that puts the seeds at the exact temperature that they like to be in. Thank you, science. We now know exactly what those temperatures are. And, the first two little leaves, generally it's two little leaves that come out initially. And that is where they start taking the nutrients from sunlight and using the chlorophyll to create food, because they used up all the food that was available in the seed.
To get leaves, and from that energy from the sun, because a lot of plants grow in spring, so there's a lot of sunlight.
Indeed.
They can grow roots, so that even in like the winter or really cloudy days, they can still get energy from the soil.
Right. And a lot of plants store the excess energy in their roots, sometimes in their leaves, and with the ultimate goal of producing fruit and reproducing.
Yeah. Unless we're talking about tumbleweeds, which
What are tumbleweeds?
so they grow.
Is it a specific type of plant?
Yes, it's like the.
Is it like a grass?
Yeah. You can probably show a picture of that right now.
Yeah.
And so that's tumbleweed. You've probably seen them before. So they grow and they get seeds on them. And then to spread out the seeds, they purposefully die and then roll around in the wind, losing their seeds gradually.
Okay. Interesting.
I heard that a while ago. That might not all be factual, but...
So, I think the majority of that is right on the money. It's often a type of, according to treehugger.com, they are mostly Russian thistle.
Yes, I think I heard about that.
Yep. And it comes from an area of Russia that doesn't get much water, so it is well acclimated to the desert.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure, I think they would probably be rewarded by high pH levels, judging by, I think they have thorns, and that's common trait in things like vines. So, which normally high or make the pH levels of the soil higher.
Possibly. I don't know if they do, but they are found in almost every state in the U.S.
Yes.
They're actually pretty when they're alive. They have flowers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Put a picture of that on screen.
I sure will. Because that is quite beautiful. According to this article, it actually saved cattle from starvation during the Dust Bowl of the 1930s when everything else was dying off because the soil was so badly damaged.
So the cows ate the flowers?
The cows ate the plant, the whole thing.
Oh.
So many animal species will feed on the young plants.
Good job, tumbleweeds, but...
Except they spread and they're invasive
and annoying.
Yes.
They can, completely, cover houses in places with a lot of tumbleweeds.
Yeah. In 150 years, they have made it from Russia to almost every state in America. And in some places, they are even worse because they're just everywhere.
How did they get here?
They think in 1873, Russian immigrants were carrying flaxseed and it had some Russian thistle seeds,
which are called tumbleweeds.
Once they're dead and the roots die off, or they, separate from their roots, then they're tumbleweeds.
Are called tumbleweeds.
Because they are a giant ball, generally.
Of spikes.
And seeds, because that's how they spread the seeds, like you already said.
Yeah, I heard that you had to do one individually because they're so big, and they're mostly air. Oh. Because I heard that they grow like vines.
Sort of.
If you have a lot of vines, there's a lot of air in between.
Absolutely.
And I imagine that's the same for tumbleweeds.
Yep.
Because of how big they are.
It's not exactly a nice looking plant in my opinion. No. It looks like a bunch of the plants we're trying to get rid of in that abandoned area of our yard.
Yes.
But that's what it looks like. And it grows in areas where other things aren't growing. And that helps it be more successful.
Yeah, but back on the topic of seeds.
Yes, that's how they spread their seeds.
Yeah, they die off, and then the wind carries them, and they spread their seeds.
Right, and then you have all those seeds in the ground ready for the next spring when the process starts over.
And how many seeds can they produce?
Oh my goodness, I don't know that answer at all. Do you want me to look it up?
Yeah. I'm very curious.
According to an article produced by the Washington State University, one plant
Can make
produce
250,000 seeds.
250,000 seeds.
How many seeds survive out of that? I imagine it can't be many. It's either not many or most of them.
It's most of them.
Oh.
Yeah. It says a single plant can produce 250,000 seeds, which typically remain viable for a year.
A year.
A year.
What do most seeds viable?
Most seed. So, do you know what the word viable means?
They are able to grow.
And able to live. Yes.
Yes.
So they have everything needed to remain alive. And most seeds are between a year and 3 years.
But most of those don't produce 250,000 seeds.
Per plant.
And each of those plants can produce another 250,000 seeds.
Yep.
In 2 generations, how many could it produce? 250,000 times 250,000?
That's a number larger than I want to imagine.
That's 2 generations.
Right. So yeah, this is the problem with invasive species, because
They have no predators.
They do not have any competition. Their cattle will graze on them, but it's not their main diet, and they prevent other plants that are helpful for the ecosystem. They prevent those plants from thriving.
That's awful.
It is. But it's one reason learning these things helps us take better care of our planet overall.
Yes.
Which is important. Take care of your planet. We only have one.
So far.
Well, I think we need to focus on protecting the one that we have now.
Of course, because we can't rely on getting things like 5 light years away.
Well, I mean, Elon Musk is working really hard on getting us to Mars. But Mars is missing one thing that I find really important. And that's an atmosphere.
Yes, I do like my atmosphere.
My atmosphere is one of the things keeping me alive. So I cherish it.
Especially if one slip up, like not realizing a hole in the spacesuit could kill you.
It sounds dangerous and not fun.
And I also don't like how it looks. Red is one of my least favorite colors, so...
Okay. I mean, I would love to take Elon Musk on a hike in the cider mill lands nearby. Remember, with all those beautiful birch and beech trees?
Oh, yeah.
I would love to take him on a hike there and ask him, this is what you want to leave behind? I wonder if he would go on a hike with me.
Maybe.
Anyway, so this was seeds.
Yeah.
What are seeds?
Seeds are a way for plants to reproduce.
They're baby plants.
Yes, and once they get water and proper conditions, they expand in the seed, breaking the seed, and then they extend what is like a wet pasta noodle outwards, and then after it's surfaced and grown like an inch or less out, I bet if you like time lapsed it would look like an explosion, and into like 2 leaves. Most of the time, 2 leaves, and then it takes the energy from the sun because they mostly sprout up in spring, so there's a lot of sunlight, to grow roots so that it can thrive even when there is no sun or less.
Indeed. There are 2 parts of that tiny little seedling. That's the taproot and the leaves and the stem. That's 3 parts. But I meant 2 parts. 1 part above ground and 1 part below the ground or in the ground.
Yeah.
That'll be the root in the ground and the seeds in the stem above ground.
Yeah, a lot of things have a bulbous, like, bulb, I guess, that kind of, like, I imagine that's the remains of the seed. Or what is it?
I think what you were talking about is a part of the plant or a part of the root structure that is larger than some others because of storing energy in the roots.
Really? Is that what it is?
Some plants do that. Some plants create bulbs in their root systems that then grow new plants.
That might be what it is too. Like on weeds. Like
some weeds, yes. Especially the ones that have vines. I can't remember the name of it, but it starts with an A, where they are able to generate new copies of themselves. It's asexual reproduction, but there's another more scientific name for it that I've forgotten.
Okay.
But we're off topic again.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's all we needed to discuss.
I think so. I think that's enough.
Yeah.
So, thank you for talking to me about seeds. This was fun. I like learning things with you.
Yes.